Sir, Honorable Governor of Tamil Nadu Thiru R.N. Ravi avails every forum to propagate and to pay encomium to Sanatana Dharma. As an academic, how do you view this?
He is occupying a gubernatorial position, a constitutional officer. The governor's office comes only in a federal system. So he is nominated by the president to oversee the administration of a particular province, but the administration is to be run in his name, but not by him. That is the constitutional position. So all the government activities would be in his name, but he is not entitled to directly administer the state. In fact, he is the de jure authority and not de facto authority. So Constitution does not envisage a governor to become the real administrative authority in any province. Of course, that happens when there is an emergency declared, when there is a paralyzation of administration in any particular province. But normal conditions, governor's role is only supportive and not authoritative. This is the constitutional position of the government. A governor is expected to uphold the constitution in his capacity as a governor. And if the constitutional provisions are violated, if he feels that some constitutional provisions are violated, then he must remind the state about that violation and should facilitate corrective methods. This is the constitutional position. India is basically a democratic federal republic. In a democracy, the nominated persons cannot have real authority. Only the elected government should wield the real power. The nominate authority can have a consultative authority. He can be an advisor. He can be an overseer. But he can never run a parallel government in any state. He is expected to abide by the decisions of the elected government. Assemblies, members are selected as ministers, and ministries, collective wisdom must be accepted by the governor. That is the constitutional provision. But ever since the BJP under Modi came to power at Delhi, the governors began to act very unconstitutionally in many places. In many provinces, lieutenant governors are there are governors. We know the cases of Kiran Bedi as lieutenant governor in Puducherry, and the lieutenant governor at Lagdives. He tried to regulate the food habits of the people of Lagdives, and he wanted to introduce ban prohibition in the country to promote tourism. And the local people were almost made captive by him. That lieutenant governor exercised more authority than any governor in Lagdives. And similarly, the governors very often play a questionable role. They, instead of functioning as a constitutional head, they try to be the spokespersons of the party that rules the center. And they try to run a parallel government, bypass the decisions of the local government. We know what happened in West Bengal. We know what happened in Karnataka and what happened recently in Maharashtra. And this present governor of Tamil Nadu, R.N. Ravi, his very postures are obnoxious. He thinks that he is superior to the chief minister, the elected cabinet, elected assembly, and that the duly constituted cabinet. And he goes on propagating something which runs counter to the state government's decision, program and policies. And he never think it improper to challenge the state government's policies in public fora, which he participates in his position as a governor. This is one thing. This will, if this is allowed to go unchecked, that will destroy democracy. Democracy is based on faith and trust on the people. People's will should prevail. People's choice is the state cabinet, which is accountable to state legislature. The state government, if it takes a decision, the governor is expected to represent that view in public fora, not to counter it whenever there is an opportunity for him to speak. This is what happening here in Tamil Nadu. Now says that Tamil Nadu's claims in securing investments is false. And he derides Tamil Nadu government's claims on many factors. He convenes the meetings of vice chancellors and propagates the new national education policy. And he asked the state government secretaries to address him on the issues which he was interested. All these activities go counter to the democratic principles upon which the state of India is built. This is one. So he must be told by the appropriate authority that he is only a constitutional head, he is the de jure authority, he is not permitted to run a parallel government in Tamil Nadu, and he is not expected to enter into a conflict with the Tamil Nadu state government, its ministers, its assembly. This is very important to retain the constitutional structure of India.
Recently, he derided Carl Thomas Munro and he expressed his displeasure over Munro's statue at Chennai. Is it justifiable?
A couple of months back, in his address in the convocation ceremony of the Madras University, he made certain remarks. Especially, he accused Colonel Thomas Munro, who was the governor of Madras Presidency some 2 centuries earlier. That governor was accused of having destroyed certain institutions in Madras Presidency. And he also lamented that for such a person there is a statue in the Madras city, Chennai city. And we can construe it that he was provoking a movement to destroy, to uproot the statue of Munro. As far as Tamils are concerned, Munro is a hero. Though he was a foreigner, he was a governor. But Thomas Munro evinced the interest in common people. He was the first governor to undertake a survey on education. It was he who spoke much of public schools, spreading education among the common people. And it was he who was responsible for laying the foundations of the present-day Presidency College. And Governor R.N. Ravi, he merely stated that he destroyed certain institutions. But he never bothered to explain or give the details what were the institutions which were destroyed by him, damaged by him. I do not know whether he means that the exclusive privileges rendered to these Sanskrit schools were not favored by him. He was interested in spreading education among the common people, Shudras and Panchamas. He had no special concern for the Sanskrit Vidyalayas or Gurukulas or Gadikas. What is the concern of R.N. Ravi? If he is an honest person, he should come out with the details about what categories of institutions were damaged during the period of Colonel Munro. Because the Tamil people hold him in high respect, Colonel Munro. I do not know what is the opinion of the Tamil people about R.N. Ravi. It's too premature to assess his contribution to Tamil Nadu. But Colonel Munro was a real governor. There was no elected body at that time. He was the real administrator. As a real administrator, he did much for the Tamil Nadu and for the other regions of Madras Presidency. And he died of cholera. He could have avoided visiting these pandemic-prone areas, but he did it and sacrificed life for the peace. So for the normal Tamil people, Tamil academics, Munro sacrificed his office and life for the sake of common people. So he is a hero for us, and that hero becomes a villain for R.N. Ravi. And it is the responsibility of R.N. Ravi to explain why he considered Munro a villainous character. Why he did not relish the presence of Munro statue in the Chennai city. He should explain it. Then, he repeatedly stated that during the colonial period, he put every blame on the colonial period. We know pretty well that the Hindutva forces, which are now dominant in Indian politics, their forefathers, their predecessors, never raised the flag of revolt against the colonial rulers, leave alone that. And he held colonial rule responsible for the damages caused to the traditional institutions, Sanatana institutions in this country. So his concern was Sanatana institution, not public welfare.
He claimed that Sanatana Dharma is far superior to our constitution. What is your comment on this?
As an academic, I expect him to respect the constitution. And for any administrator in India, from president to the governor or to the collector, constitution is the ultimate. It is the authority. They derive their authority from the constitution. They derive their responsibility from the constitution. So constitution must be the ultimate for everybody in India. But the constitution is belittled by R.N. Ravi in open fora. Not only belittled, he derides the constitution. Let me read a statement of Ravi in this regard. So while addressing a meeting, Ravi said that the Indian constitution does not carry the soul of India. In Tamil, India Arasilamapil, India Atma Illai. So Indian constitution does not carry the soul of India. It is only meant for governance. The constitution is only meant for governance. But Bharat and Sanatana were much older than the constitution. So according to him, the Sanatana should be considered as the ultimate, not the constitution. So he goes on insisting that the constitution should subserve Sanatana Dharma. So this is an affront to the constitution. And it is a punishable utterance. I do not know whether any court would take immediate attention to this anti-constitutional statement of a gubernatorial. He says that the Indian constitution is only meant for governance. But Bharat is a unitary one, a single entity. Indian constitution provides for a union of states, but Bharat is meant for a unitary state. So a governor who has taken an oath while assuming office on the Indian constitution, he did not take an oath on the Sanatana Dharma. He took an oath on Indian constitution. And that person says that this constitution is secondary and the primary objective or ultimate authority is Bharat and Sanatana Dharma. There is an attempt to not only to dilute the constitution, but to subvert the constitution. People are asked more to obey the tradition than the written constitution. The people are asked by the gubernatorial officers to respect the traditions and not to give the same respect to the written constitution, which was consciously created by the constitution makers of India, where the best brains of the day contributed to the ideals. And it is high time to remind him that the Indian constitution, India's constitution, is not merely for governance. It is the basis of the Indian state. The state of India is based on the Indian constitution. A republican government, a federal government, a democratic government with the separation of power, with the distribution of powers, everything is depending on the Indian constitution. Sanatana has nothing to do with that. So it is the basis of the state. How this base, the foundation of the state can be ignored or derided by a constitutional authority. If there is no constitution, there is no Indian state. There could be traditions. That is a different thing. But you are not forming a state. And this Ravi states that Sanatana Dharma is inexplicable. You cannot explain it, define it. It is not mere religion. It is much more than that. In fact, and he goes on to say that there is no equivalent to Dharma, Sanskrit Dharma, in English or in any other language. I totally agree with him that on this. This Dharma or Sanatana Dharma is a Sanskrit word. It cannot have equivalence in any other language. For Tamils, it is not their concern. For Telugus, it is not their concern. For people who are not interested in Sanskrit, who do not know Sanskrit, it does not matter. So it is very exclusive to Sanskrit language. Only those people who were benefited by the tradition will have all prize for that Dharma. Very conspicuously, he avoids the word India, but he goes on repeating the word Bharat. Bharat and Sanatana. This is very significant that he exposes him, I think. According to his statement, vested interests have created an impression that secularism, as defined in the Constitution, had nothing to do with Dharma. This is a mischievous and a distorted interpretation. The political interpretation has put institutions that are supposed to carry Dharma forward in a very hard place. Dharma is all encompassing and inclusive, is stated. It is not unique to Sanskrit, first of all. There is a Dhamma in Pali language, Prakriti languages. Dhamma means the discipline, the value system, the way of life advised for the people. The Buddhist Dhamma is distinctly different from the Brahmanical Dharma. There lies the core. There is a Buddhist Dharma. There is a Brahmanical Dharma. Ravi's Dharma, Sanatana Dharma, is nothing but Brahmanical Dharma. And he says that which is derived from Vedas, Vedic Dharma. Unfortunately, the Rig Veda does not mention to any Dharma. Dharma was coined later on. The Brahmanical Dharma meant the Varna divisions, gradations, and then the responsibilities assigned to every Varna. The graded society becomes the basis of the Dharma. We must thank Ravi for having stated that Dharma cannot be synonymous with religion. In fact, I would say that Brahmins are least worried about religion. Religion is a faith system, faith-based ritualistic system. They call the religion Mata. Shankara referred to Madas. That is the religion, worship system. So Shankara selected 6 systems of worship for Brahmanical approval. Shanmada, where there will be a principal deity to be worshipped, a form of the deity, the rituals meant for the adorative songs, everything would be there. Worship system. The Brahmins were never fixed to any particular deity. In the Rigvedic age, the deities were entirely different. Some 33 deities are mentioned in Rigveda. The important among them were Indra was the war god, who was given 25% of the hymns in Rigveda. He was followed by Soma, and then Agni, Nasatyas, Aditya, Surya, Ashwini. So many other gods are mentioned. And in their name, to satisfy these deities, they performed yajnas. What happened to these deities now? They changed the deities. They adopted new deities later on. So earlier, the deities were offered yajnas without an idol, without a temple. How did they switch on to the idol worship? And the idol worship too, they went on changing the deities. Even Buddha was given an idol form. Buddha was made an avatar. They were shifting their deities very often. They were shifting their loyalties to deities very often. There was no fixed deity for the Brahmins. But they claimed that they alone can satisfy the requirements of the deities. Only through their mantras and yantras and yajnas, the gods could be appeased and they could be made to grant boons to the devotees. So they claimed authority over the deities. But those deities were not their own. They adopted deities that were popular in particular region for a particular age. So they went on changing their deities. In the days of Shankara, they adopted 6 categories of deities. Shanmata. Shiva worships Saiva, Vishnu worships Vaishnava, and then Shakti worships Shakta, and Surya worships Saurabha, and Kumara worships Kaumara, and Ganapati worships Ganapatya. These were the 6 matas. And Ravi should note that There is no Brahma here. They said that there were three principal deities: Brahma, the creator; the Vishnu, the sustainer; Shiva, the destroyer. While they preferred to make Shiva and Vishnu the principal deities and two of the six systems of religions, why Brahma is not included? Because Brahmins were very careful that their Brahman is exclusive for them. It is not meant for others. So while they were becoming archakas to other deities, they retained their Vedas for themselves. And that Brahma was inaccessible to others. They could become the priestly leaders of other temples. Others could never become leaders or priests in their system. They were very careful. So these systems of worship, rituals were changing. But Brahmins were very careful. Brahminism was very careful that even when the systems were changing, the Brahmins would always have the leadership in the ritualistic system. They would be the chief priest. They would be the archakas. They would be the prohitas. So they retained their leadership over the society through the ritualistic religion. So that the religion, it is not what you call Sanatana is not confined to religion. We accept. And also Brahmins, they were excluded from the Shanmadas. What about the Sanatana? If Ravi should have explained if it is not religion, what else is Sanatana? That explanation should come from them. They will never come out of it. Is Hinduism, is Sanatana? Even the court, the Brahminical judges gave the judgment that Hinduism is a way of life and not a religion. Hinduism is a way of life. Way of life means the social order, social arrangement, the Varna system. They will never say that they are insisting on Varna system while insisting on Sanatana. Why this hide and seek game? Let them come out openly that they wanted the greater society to continue to be strengthened in India. There should be the Sanatana Dharma. There should be enforced through their authority. Let them come out openly. Let there be an honest conflict between the Sanatana supporters and opponents. Let there be an honest conflict. Why they should hide behind this Sanatana? Why they refuse to explain what is meant by Sanatana? Recently, how these people are usurping or conspiring to have control over society to Sanatana. You will find this ad in the paper. It was published in the newspaper. It is about admissions to the Nalanda University. Admissions open. This year's ad. There are 17 countries who contribute to this Nalanda University. Nalanda University earlier was an international university run by the Buddhist missionaries. It attracts students from different corners of the world. And you know pretty well that even Yuan Shuang was a student here for some time. It was a very popular university. It was not a Brahminical Gurukula Gatika. It was different. So to commemorate that Nalanda University, the UPA government agreed to institute an international university, Nalanda University, in the same place. So many countries which had some substantial Buddhist population came forward to contribute funds for the running of Nalanda University. So Nalanda University is now revived, regenerated, and there is a global support for that. The purpose is very obvious: to regenerate Buddhist studies. That was the purpose of the Nalanda University. But look at this. They are given 6 programs in it. They are given 6 programs. What are the programs? You must remember that Amartya Sen was the leader of the director board, who was unceremoniously removed from the board. Now it is under the control of the Hindutva elements. And these 6 courses, sustainable development management, it has nothing to do with the Buddhist development, Buddhist studies, philosophy. Ecology and environment studies, we don't object. Let them introduce any new subject. And then Buddhist studies, philosophy and comparative religions. So they now satisfy the 17 foreign countries. And Hindu studies, here find it. What do you mean by Hindu study? Was the Hindu studies prevalent in the ancient Nalanda University? There was no Hinduism as such when Nalanda University was in vogue. Now they introduced a subject, Hindu studies. Strangely, within bracket, they explain Hindu studies as Sanatana. Now you cannot say that it is not a religious study, it is not based on religion. But to be very frank, they abuse Hindu to propagate Sanatana. Because Hindu, in pragmatic terms, means anybody who worship deities who could not be included in the list of Islamic rites or Christian rites or Jewish rites. So those worship systems is developed within India. That is Hindu. Then here, Saivism and Saiva Siddhanta would become part of it. There are so many other streams that would be incorporated. But they wanted to exclude such non-Brahminical streams. That is why within bracket they inserted Sanatana. Sanatana, they stated that you can understand only through Sanskrit, Sanskrit Vedas and Sanskrit literature. So Hinduism, the word Hinduism is abused by the Brahmins to project their sectarian interest, Brahminical sectarian interest. Hinduism pragmatic term should include various worship systems, various philosophies, and many of them were non-Brahminical. This is the conspiracy. Sanatana is insisted because if the Sanatana is replaced by Hinduism, that may in future give scope for non-Brahminical elements to come up. So they are very careful. And the Ravi wants us to believe that Sanatana is superior to everybody. Hinduism is the religion of all religions. That is how Mohan Bhagavat is claimed last month. It's a religion of all religions. What does it mean? This organization, RSS, treats, according to Golwalkar, Christianity and Islam as non-Hindu religions, Semitic religions. They call them Semitic religions. And their pilgrim centers were outside India, so they were foreigners. And those people who have pilgrim centers elsewhere could not be real patriots. That is the theory of Golwalkar. So by Sanatana, what does he want? Obviously, he means the social arrangement, social order. The uneven social order that exploited the majority of people in India, it is attempted to be reinvigorated by the Hindutva elements. And people like R.N. Ravi says that Sanatana Dharma is the spine of the Indian culture, Indian society. I only want to say that Sanatana was beneficial to Brahminical elements. That Sanatana was inimical to other elements, to the working class. And he says that the Sanatana Dharma provides for unity in diversity. He says that this includes everyone. It is the basis of unity in diversity. Unity in diversity was a word coined by Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru while he wrote his book, Discovery of India, explains this theory. India is a land of multiculture, multi-ethnic groups. So the plurality is accepted, yet there can be a unity among the various segments, various linguistic groups, racial, ethnic, cultural groups, by having a political structure in which the main structure would be amenable to all. It would accept equal status for all categories. There is unity in diversity. But what sort of unity can be between the Panchamas and the Brahmanas in a graded society? Between the Kshatriyas and the Sudras in a graded society. So here, these gradations are not horizontal, they are vertical. There can be unity in the horizontal order. There cannot be unity in a vertical order. So, that is why Guru Golwalkar, who is a guru for all these people, who was the person who gave written explanation to all the Hindutva claims. According to him, harmony is important, not equality. The need of the day is not equality, but harmony among the various segments. Harmony means you agree to subserve the other group. You reconcile yourself to the unequal position. That is harmony. If you agree to subserve the Brahmins, you can be in the society. So if you want to claim that, you are disturbing the harmony. Equality will be a disturbing factor. So, suppressing that fact, R.N. Ravi, he deliberately gives a false explanation that it provides for unity in diversity. But unity in diversity, as propagated by Ravi, is a euphemism for harmony in inequality. And there can never be unity in equality. He insists on harmony in inequality. Any person with a self-respect will never agree to it. The Indian Constitution provides for fundamental rights, irrespective of caste, creed, religion, place of birth. Everyone has equal status in the Indian Constitution. If you agree Sanatana Dharma, if you consider Sanatana Dharma superior to Constitution, then you will be losing the fundamental rights. You are diluting the fundamental rights. So equality is to be sacrificed for the sake of Sanatana Dharma. Ravi is living in a different land. You are trying to mislead the people, Tamil Nadu people, by a jugglery of words. By abusing the Sanskrit words, you cannot deceive the Tamil people. And you all used to say that you have not read NEP fully. That means the Tamils never used to read everything. They are semi-literate, they are illiterate, they are ignorant, they are ill-informed. You have got a different opinion about the Tamils. We express their views freely. Of course, all Tamils are not as good a learned person as Annamalai, BJP leader Annamalai, who could have read lakhs of books by this time. And as R.N. Ravi, who could have read all the Sanskrit books. Sanskrit was made inaccessible, illegible to common people because you wanted to exploit the common people. Now it is a day of self-respect. Every individual, every segment, every state has to assert its dignity. And here Sanatana goes against the democratic values of the day, democratic equality. Sanatana goes for what you call theocratic state. If you, in the name of Sanatana, you want to revive, regenerate the old order, Tamil people will fight it tooth and nail. Until they are lost, they will fight it. They are not going to surrender to your diktats. The days are different. Tamils are determined to see that we are nothing against the Indian Federation. But ours in the Indian Federation is based on an assurance on equal status. Because you know that these Hindutva elements or the Brahminic elements never had respect for linguistic states. When linguistic states were formed in the 1956, there was one Janasangh MP, Jagannatha Rao Joshi, who ridiculed the very claim of Maharashtra to be an independent state. When the Maharashtrian politician stated that, by our name itself we can know that we are a separate state. Rashtra, Maharashtra. Then Jagannath Rao Joshi ridiculed that claim by stating that, what about Dhritarashtra? Will you consider Dhritarashtra a state? Quoting the Mahabharata character. To such people, we want to remind that your Sanskrit literature does not have equivalent to state. Rajya means the land of the Raja. Rashtra means the land of a particular sect of people. There is no state. The concept of state, today you call the president Rashtrapati, but that is not appropriate equivalent. State is different from government. The Indian Constitution creates a state, union of states. Then it provides for fundamental rights for the people, provides for guarantees for equitable treatment among the states, among the individuals. And it separates list of powers for states and center, and for the concurrent list it provides concurrent list too. So Constitution is far superior. I am accepted as a citizen in the Constitution. You are now trying to tamper with the citizenship of many people. What is the equivalent for citizen in Sanskrit literature? You do not have an equivalent for state in Sanskrit literature. You do not have an equivalent for citizenship in Sanskrit literature. Still you call that everything emanated from Vedas and Sanatana? And you have put a time limit. Within 25 years, India, Bharat would become the world leader. How a state which could not provide equal treatment to the people, its own people, how it can become a world leader? You are after glory, we are after justice. In a conflict in glory and justice, people would be with justice, not with the glory. The glory is meant for a few, justice is meant for all. So the system that we aspire through the Indian Constitution is totally different from the system that you try to project through insisting on Sanatana Dharma. So Sanatana is not a very glorified one. We had tried that for many years. Not that we tried, you have imposed it on us for many years. That failed. Sanskrit did not unite India. And Sanskrit did not unite the Indian national movement. It is the English, through English only, Indian national movement emerged. Sanskrit failed us because you kept Sanskrit a privileged language for a privileged people. And you neglected the vernacular languages. So with the rise of vernacular languages, people asserted their dignity, their rights and their position in the society, their participation in governance. So here, people like Ravi need not become our gurus. With emphasis on Sanatana, governor like Ravi cannot be accepted as our preceptors. You are not our preceptor. You are an officer. Do your work. Don't try to become our preceptor. If you try to become our preceptor, we will be constrained to teach you a lesson, because we had better teachers, preceptors earlier. We had Valluvar, we had Periyar, we had so many others, Ambedkar and others, who taught us the better value system, the better ways of life. So it is high time to remind people like Ravi that they must mind their official business. They should not poke their nose unnecessarily into cultural issues. He says that spiritualism, what is spiritualism? Europe had been a spiritual country. Holy Roman Empire, papacy, everything ruled. Europe's emergence as a modern nation was possible only after the liberation of Europe from the clutches of the spiritual bodies. The spiritual leaders were all here. Could they unite India? They did not. And he made a reference to Vivekananda while he was speaking at a home in the Mylapore. He made a reference to Vivekananda as if he was trying to realize the vision of Vivekananda. Vivekananda was dead against Goraksha Samitis, cow protection. When people came to collect funds from him for Goraksha, he told that when people are dying, humans are dying of starvation, why are you so much interested in these animals? And the people who came to him for donation, they told him that if the humans are suffering, it is their fate. Then Vivekananda retorted, if the cows are suffering, it is also their fate. Would you share the same concern of Vivekananda? So don't misquote Vivekananda. Everybody is subject to critical analysis, even Vivekananda. But Vivekananda stated so many other things. He never bothered about the institutions. So the thing is that Tamil tradition is that not to preserve the past. Padayana kadidalum pudiyana pugudalum. That is the Dravidian concept, Tamil concept. We want the injustice has happened in the past to vanish. And justifiable future should emerge. Padayana kadidalum pudiyana pugudalum is our concern. For you, rejuvenation of the past is your concern. So we don't concur with your views. You cannot concur with our views. The best solution is that you mind your business, we will mind our business.
Is not the office of governor a colonial and non-democratic legacy which rendered elected bodies a mockery?
The Constitution of 1950 was basically based on 1935 Constitution. That Constitution was drafted by the colonial masters. But after consultation with the Indian leaders, Dr. Ambedkar played a key role in it too. And he countered Gandhiji's arguments in the roundtable conferences. So during the colonial period, the office of governor was retained. The office was retained, but an elected ministry was made possible. But even then, as per the 1935 Act, elections were conducted in 1937. Congress party emerged victorious in many provinces. But they refused to accept office because they feared that governor might make mischief, might commit undue interferences in the administration. So governor's office should be curtailed. So they were unhappy, they were not ready to accept the governor. So they refused to participate in the government. Negotiations went on. After 2 years, they agreed to form ministries on condition that the British government gave an assurance that the governor would not unnecessarily interfere in the state affairs. Only after receiving that assurance, they took part in the ministry. So first ministries were formed in 1937. Rajaji became the prime minister at that time. So this question, will the governor be a hindrance to democratic progress? That question lingered on even during that time. And the British government gave an assurance, and even though they were foreigners, they kept their promise until last. governors did not unnecessarily interfere. And these ministries resigned only when the World War broke out, and when the World War, the British government declared India a party in the war without consulting Indian leaders. So there was no question of governor abusing the office or obstructing the Indian ministers. That questions never happened. The governors did not make adverse remarks on Indian ministries at that time. But what is the role of governor today? So this doubt was expressed even during the discussions of the Constituent Assembly. Was it necessary to have a governor in a democratic system?
You repeatedly insisting on certain basic democratic and constitutional values. How are we going to enlighten the governor on this?
There are two ways. One is that the regional parties must organize and they must sort for a constitutional amendment removing or restricting the office of the governor. In the British days, there were British residents, not a governor in the princely states. They simply observed. They sent notes to the central government or the imperial government. If something went wrong, then the imperial government would put a notice to the state government. The governors did not act as intermediary in those days. There were residents. So governor's position must be equivalent to resident here, not as an administrator. The parallel government cannot be allowed to be experimented in any state. That is one thing. Then there were governors. This Surjit Singh Barnala refused to dissolve the Tamil Nadu ministry led by Karunanandan. So he refused to carry out the diktat from the center and he had to sacrifice his office. There were few honest governors, but not all governors were honest, because the way in which they came to office is somewhat questionable. For example, R.N. Ravi belonged to the police service, intelligence officer. What political experience he had? But he is made the governor. There were governors with excellent track record. I remember a day when the teachers were struggling for the UGC scale of pay. Narasimha Rao was the Union Minister for the Human Resource Development. Rajiv Gandhi was the president. The associations put a pressure on Narasimha Rao. You make the states to implement the UGC scales of pay. I was in the moment at that time. I know it personally well. Then Narasimha Rao told that, professors, we are in a federal system. We can only advise the states, we cannot instruct the states. So don't pressurize me. I will visit your state. I will make a plea with the government. And I am hopeful that they will agree to it. I cannot issue diktats to the government. That is the spirit of the Constitution. So even under the existing provisions, governors can be made responsible overseers. But the thing is that BJP is meant to make India one nation. Congress was there, it too abused the governor's post. But the present day condition is that through governors, they try to make a union of states into a unitary India. The governors are subserving their interests. It is more dangerous than the previous regime. So there must be an all India movement. And our Chief Minister can take up the responsibility. He can initiate a move to secure a consensus among the non-BJP parties to demand for and work for a revision of the Constitution whereby central government's unnecessary interference through the governors can be curtailed. That must be a major concern for the various parties in India. What happened in Bengal, we know. So every state, the problem is there. So it should be a political, it should be resolved through a political movement. The initiative should come from the opposition parties. And our state has a tradition of struggling for states' autonomy. And right from the days of Anna, we had been claiming for substantial powers for the state. So it is high time that every other party agrees to this proposal and come to a consensus. We can make it an all India issue. We can introduce suitable amendments to the constitution whereby the provincial rights are safeguarded and strengthened.
While humanity is making huge strides towards progress, such retrograde Sanatana forces are attempting to push us backward. Is the Sanatanist dream possible of realization?
In any system, there would be some beneficiary. There would be people who are affected or who are not benefited by this system. System change comes for the benefit of others, not for the same people. The system. So this system, the Varnasrama system, was there in the past. In some areas, not everywhere. In some areas, in the Gangetic region. It was beneficial to the princely class and the priestly class. They became supporters. The others, the Vaishyas, Shudras, Panchamas, these people, they were numerically constituted more than 80%. But they were not organized. They were not allowed to be organized. So they were kept under their thumb for thousands of years. Now with the dawn of democracy, empowering these masses becomes the first step towards a just order. The empowerment will be imperfect if the awareness is absent from a larger section of people. The awareness is prevented by various diversionary practices. Religion, rituals, all these become diversionary trends. The priorities are altered by the vested interests. So it is not religion. Everyone is a religion in one way or other. Not all people are rational people. But basic rationalism is there. Here, the attention of the people is diverted from real issues to non-real issues by the authorities and the propaganda missionaries. Earlier, through religious institutions, they were sanctifying the tradition. In the new age, under the Western education, their sanctification is obstructed. That is why they lamented that Monroe damaged our institutions, and the colonial period damaged our institutions. Did your past rule, even Rama, did he run public schools? Your Mahabharata, did they have the Rashtra at that time? Even the state could be bifurcated, trifurcated, balkanized to satisfy the various clans of the royal family. So you had no idea at the time. But all these were beneficial to the king and the priest. The others were taxpayers were never considered as humans. Their labor was taken for granted. So the old order has to change, because in any order there would be some people who were left untouched, unbenefited. And for their benefit, the order has to be modified. So it is very difficult to sustain the old order forever. But the thing is that they try to alter the existing system to suit their needs in a different form. They adopt modern technology, but to strengthen only their old value system. That is why unless the masses became aware of the forces that crippled them, there is no redemption. So the masses should be liberated from the old convictions. They must be now enlightened towards a new justifiable order. That comes through education, through formal education, through informal education. The media is an informal education. There are formal educations. Formal education being stamped at what you see in Karnataka. They tamper with the textbooks to insist on old values. And we struggle through our media, the social media and other things, against that move, retrograde move. We want to change. Transformation can be delayed, but it cannot be denied.
கடந்த ஒரு நூற்றாண்டு காலத்தில் தமிழ்நாடு கண்ட போராட்டங்களையும் அதனால் நிகழ்ந்த மாறுதல்களையும் விளக்கிச் சொல்லும் அரிய நூல் பேராசிரியர் சுப வீரபாண்டியனின் போராட்டங்கள். விலை ரூபாய் 275 மட்டும். புத்தகம் வாங்க திரையில் தெரியும் தொலைபேசி எண்களுக்கு தொடர்பு கொள்ளுங்கள். மேலும் கருஞ்சட்டை பதிப்பகத்தின் இணையதளத்துக்கு வாருங்கள்.